Okay, so this video is for how to make up a grayscale using white and raw umber, and this is going to be for step 2 of our indirect painting or our still life painting. This video is just going to be for how to mix up the grayscale, right? So I have oil paint, and I'm going to squeeze out. So this is my palette paper. I'm going to squeeze out on the far side of my palette a nice little blob of titanium white. I have some medium over there. So this is gel medium. And I'm going to squeeze out. I'm going to leave a little space here, but I'm going to squeeze out some raw umber right over here. I'm going to have a quick word for acrylic painters. You want to have some of your acrylic medium over here, and you want that, so that medium is going to be either your golden open acrylic medium or some sort of medium that is going to slow the drying time of acrylic. So this oil paint is going to stay wet. For acrylic painters, you want to mix up all these nice gray colors, but you don't want the paint to dry out before you get to use that paint. So by putting some medium into the colors we're going to mix is going to keep it from drying out. Another thing that's a nice trick when I'm using acrylic paint is to have a little spray bottle nearby so that you can mist, one of those little nice like mister bottles, and just mist your paint with water every so often to keep your paint from drying up. Again, oil painters, you do not have that problem. The oil paint is not going to dry, right? So since I'm using oil paint, I do not like to mix the medium in my paint. I like to keep it just full strength paint and mix the medium in as I use it. But when I use acrylic paint, I do mix it in so the acrylic paint doesn't dry out. So what I'm going to try to do is mix up 3 or 4 values in between white and umber here. Right, so I'm going to scoot this away. By the way, this is a palette knife. Palette knives come in many different shapes and sizes. I like this one because it has a nice flat edge right here. I like this little spade or diamond shaped one. If you don't have a palette knife, you can mix the paint up with your brush, but it's not going to work as well. Just the paint's going to get in the brush and you're going to waste a lot of paint that way. So you can survive without a palette knife to mix up this paint, but it's just best to use one. So I'm going to mix, I'm going to say 3 to 4 shades of gray in here. There's no way you could possibly mix up every shade of gray that you're going to put on your painting. There's just an infinite number of grays, but 3 or 4 you're going to do pretty well. So I'm going to start with white. I have my white right there. Well, you know what? I don't need really that much. I'm going to put some back. And I'm going to just get a tiny bit. So I'm just going to touch. You guys see how little amount of this brown I got? And I'm going to put it in there. Again, if you're using acrylic paint, you're going to get a little glob of your slow drying medium and put it in there. I can put a little in there just to show you. And I'm smashing it, and I'm just, swirling it around. You can see as I start mixing, it's going to get a little streaky looking, right? And I just keep mixing until it's not streaky looking anymore. And then I'm going to try to put it back into a blob with a palette knife. Now this takes a little bit of practice to be able to smush that off and get the paint off of the palette knife. This part's especially important if you have acrylic paint, because if you see this big area here where the paint is very thin, that's going to dry really quickly. This nice thick blobular area is going to stay wet longer because it's a nice blob. All right, so especially if you have acrylic, you want to push it back into a nice little blob. All right, now I'm going to try to go for one darker. So you can see a visible step between the white and this first value of gray. To be useful to me, I don't like the values to be too close together. Another fun fact, this particular palette paper I have is supposed to be middle gray, so halfway between black and white. Anyways, I'm gonna try again here. So I'm gonna get some more white here. There we go. And this time I'm gonna just get a little bit extra, a little bit more than I had last time. There's actually a nice blob on there. Dark colors like raw umber are a lot stronger tinting strength than white. White is pretty weak, so this darkness of this umber is gonna really overpower the white. Right, so you can see I'm starting to mix. It's pretty streaky still, so I'm just trying to get that paint off the knife, just kind of mixing it around and then pushing it back into a little blob. That one looks pretty close to the value of medium gray. It's hard for me to even see it against this palette, right? So I'm gonna do another value right here. So again, I'm cutting this white, getting a little, put it in over here, getting a little more brown in there, and I'm just gonna start mixing, see where I end up. So you can see the nice step between white and my first gray, and between these two, and between these two. I think that's a pretty nice, nice jump from one to the other. I'm going to, now I think I want to get one more, because from this to this right now is too big of a jump. So I'm actually going to take this, move him over there, and this time I wanted to be closer to the umber, so I'm going to start with the umber, and I'm just going to grab a little bit of white. Okay, so I through experience of doing this over and over, I tend to use more of kind of like these colors, so I know to mix up more of these, but everybody is different. And I'd say the amount of paint that I have right here, you might want to mix up a little bit more than this, just because you don't want to run out halfway through and have to remix your value scale. But I feel like this is, I mean, and it's not a big deal if you have to remix it anyways, because the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. Okay, so then I have white, my umber, I have 4 shades of gray, a nice kind of medium steps between the values. Now, over here, so this is umber, raw umber, one step over, I'm going to add a nice little bit of black. So this is ivory black. So now you have this, you're ready to start painting in grisaille, which I'm going to put up a different video for how to do that. So before you start painting in grisaille, you want to do this, and especially if you have acrylic, you don't want to do this till you have already watched my grisaille video and you're just like ready to paint right now. All right.